How's it going, guys? Thanks for stopping by. Hope you're all doing well. We are here for our weekly Wednesday night live stream, and we got a lot to talk about. Mostly, look, it's going to be a lot of talk about stonks tonight, guys. And it's not because we're an investment channel, because we're not. But it's just a lot has happened in the last couple days regarding the stock market. And, what that means for politics, for inequality, for, the flaws and nonsensicality of capitalism in a lot of ways, how the market is fake and things like that. So we're going to talk about a lot of those things tonight, because that's really kind of crucial. We're going to talk about AOC weighing in. AOC is now the queen of Wall Street Bets. Wall Street Bets, about an hour ago when I was getting ready for this, Wall Street Bets took itself down from Reddit because it was, they were getting so much attention that they couldn't handle the load, right? And yes, that's what she said. But the reality is that, they're back and they're sharing a tweet of AOC where she's basically saying what we've been saying, which is what David Dole, Kyle Kalinske, a lot of people have been talking about this today, which is that what you're seeing on the stock market right now, and it's not some big ideological crusade, it's not it's not a general strike, it's not a fundamental challenge to capitalism, but it is a reaction to a certain formulation of capitalism, right? Steve, Samantha Sutter says, can we really bring down all private equity firms? Probably not, Samantha, and we'll talk about why. Because there's specific context to why this worked and why it wouldn't work with a broader economic approach and why it wouldn't work with many other firms. And so basically, a few companies fit the bill for this. They are companies that are heavily, heavily shorted. If people don't know what shorting is, it's when a person or a firm or a hedge fund or whatever, you can short stocks individually. You basically bet on the stock going down. I'm not going to explain the technicalities as it works because it involves borrowing and stuff. I'm not an expert. But basically, you make money when you short a stock if the stock falls. Regular investing, traditional investing is you buy a stock, you hope it rises, you sell the stock, and you make the difference between what you bought it at and what you eventually sell it at. Buy low, sell high, right? Shorting, it's sort of the opposite. So if you think for whatever reason a company is going to lose value because its competitors are better, because it's a dying industry, because it is, you feel their corporate management is bad, whatever. For whatever reason, that's what happens there. You want to basically bet on a decline in the cost of the stock. But if you do that, there's a lot of risk. And there's actually more risk shorting a stock than there is buying it traditionally. Because if you buy $1,000 of a stock in a traditional way, the most you can lose is the $1,000 principal. You buy, 10 shares of a company at $100 a share for $1,000, and the company goes bankrupt and they lose all their money, you would get $0. But if the share keeps rising, and it can rise infinitely because there is no cap to how high a stock can go hypothetically, there's no maximum you can lose. There's no maximum for shorting. And so what happens is, as the price rises, you need to buy more shares to cover your losses, which only drives the price up further. So what happened here with Steven saying here, AMC, GME, NOK, is all these companies are small-ish in relative terms. They're not tiny, they're not penny stocks, but they're small-ish companies. They were trading relatively low, and they had a lot of people shorting them. A big amount of their shares were effectively being shorted, which means that if you can create a short squeeze, which is put pressure on those companies shorting it, the stock can rise very quickly. This wouldn't necessarily work with like Tesla, Microsoft, Apple, these sorts of companies, because in some ways they're just too massive. They are gargantuan corporations. Even Wall Street Bets all working together couldn't fundamentally move those stocks. But it's also that the amount of people shorting those companies as a percentage of the total shares is low compared to GameStop, AMC, and many others. And so, yes, Samantha, you're 100% right. You can short the entire market. You can buy an index fund. Is it SPY? I'm not sure which one it is, but you can buy an index fund which does the opposite of what general index funds do. So you can buy an all-purpose market fund, which is designed to, as best as it can, track the global performance of the market. But you could buy one that's inversed, and so that as the market goes down, the value of that fund generally goes up. But in terms of if everyone on Wall Street Bets started buying the short the market index funds, it wouldn't move the market all that much. Not like what we've seen. Not like what we've seen. I mean, I doubt Wall Street Bets could move Microsoft more than a couple percent. It's just, it requires this specific moment, right? And so, yeah, a lot of people who are like, we think we can sink this company and make money as we do it by shorting the stock. In essence, they've been hit by the same phenomenon, which is that people have called their bluff, if only temporarily, and now said, look, you have to cover that cost. And a lot of these hedge funds have lost billions. Some of them might go bankrupt. We're talking about hedge funds worth 1.3 billion maybe disappearing in like 4 days. Like, even for some firms, this will cause more damage than 2008 did. John Bartlett says stonks. You know, so I mean, it's pretty big, right? Yeah, I know AOC is on MSNBC tonight. I'll be checking that out later to see if there's a video to be made on it. But it's great to see that she really does capture a lot of media attention. In fact, she's barely a rookie. She's barely no longer a rookie, and she's already the like fourth most followed member of Congress. Like it's like Bernie, a couple other people, and then her. The only other person that was close to Bernie was Kamala Harris, and now she's no longer in Congress. And Jason Kennedy with the red thumbs up. Thank you so much. Well, I mean, people asking, like, what does this mean? I mean, I don't know in the short term, right? Like, in the short term, I'm guessing that, like, this can only go on for so long, and prices will return to relative normality. I think longer term, there's going to be a discussion about regulation and things like that, but I think that's going to be pretty hairy, because I think a lot of people think that, like, all these rich people have made, literal and figurative killings on the market for generations. And now, because regular people, for the first time ever, have, like, access to all these technologies that they can sort of compete with the big dogs. They can sort of trade information in real time. Like, the information inequality is less than it's ever been. Like, I don't know. It might look really bad to really crush it down. Then again, the corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans, the people that have their ear, are not the folks down at Wall Street Bets. They're the folks at, the hedge funds, the big five banks. I don't know how many you guys have in the States. Canada, we have like the big five. But, the big banks, the big investment firms, these sorts of people. And if they are like, well, we have to find some way of curbing retail investment because it's bad for the market, maybe you'll see something. But I'm not sure. And so, yeah, it's it's a special time in that way. I mean, AOC is the as I note, she's like the queen of Wall Street Bets right now. And I mean, like, Wall Street Bets doesn't have a coherent politics. I mean, they're certainly not like left wing, but I wouldn't call them like right wing either. If anything, they sort of lean, I guess, kind of libertarian. Given like a lot of them seem like they're young libertarian guys, but they're loving AOC right now because she really captured what I talked about earlier on the channel, but also what a lot of them have been saying today. And again, this didn't necessarily start, and it's not really going to be fully about like this crusade against like the big banks and things like that. But there's an element of that. And like AOC notes here, she tweeted this out a little bit ago. She says, "Got to admit, it's really something to see Wall Streeters with a long history of treating our economy as a casino complain about a message board of posters also treating the market as a casino. Anyways, tax the rich." And so I think she's getting at like what a lot of people, yeah, well, exactly. I think there's a lot of ANCAP types there, but she's getting at what a lot of these people are talking about, and what some of because there are some people in finance and things like that have been, I guess, supportive of this move by Wall Street Bets, basically saying, look, you have all these gatekeepers that like effectively manipulate the market, whether they do it like legal manipulation or illegal manipulation, like they manipulate the market. And now regular folks are doing that, right? And again, whether it's legal, like I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a Securities and Exchange Commission's expert, so I don't want to comment on legality or the lack thereof. But like the basic reality is like they're doing it, and finally, like they're getting some gains at the expense of the rich and wealthy and well-connected. And as David notes here, thank you for the super chat, David. Like now people are like, oh, we need to regulate the markets. And again, it's no surprise. It is no surprise that a lot of people who would never call for regulation, a lot of people that if Bernard Sanders, right, became president, which of course, for those maybe new to the channel, this is the man most of my regular viewers and myself we supported, would have become president, he would have regulated Wall Street more. I don't know how much. It would have also depended on, you know, how many seats the Democrats win in the Senate and blah, 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 all of that. But he would have sought regulations on Wall Street. Frankly, so would have Elizabeth Warren even, at least to some degree. And those same people, 100%, they would have been like, oh, it's bad for the market. No regulations are needed. We need to let the free market operate as freely as possible because the market will always reach the correct price because the market is good. Like this cultish belief, this basically it's religion for capitalists, right? And now because it doesn't work for them, they're crying to mommy SEC and daddy SEC. And I don't know how far this is going to go. I don't know if, for instance, all these people whining are going to realize that, one, it's not that big of a deal, and two, I don't know how you stop it. Because Wall Street Bets, I mean, I don't know how you curtail that, honestly. Like, maybe they'll just stop whining about it, but I don't know. I mean, hypothetically, people are asking, like, how this could affect things. I mean, maybe you see firms more cautious with shorting, right? Like hedge funds and big investors that really make shorting a big part of their business. Maybe now they're going to say to themselves, well, in addition to the general risk of the stock going up and just through natural quote unquote means without any particular movement behind it, the additional possibility is that we could face a short squeeze, not just from another hedge fund or another big investor, but from the internet, basically, you know, calling our bluff on the short. And maybe there'll be less big shorts of companies. I don't know. Because hypothetically, if Wall Street Bets could find another company like GameStop or AMC, they've also sort of done it to BlackBerry, and because BlackBerry's dipped a lot, but they've done it to BlackBerry, and they've also done it to Nokia. All of these companies, they could find another company, relatively low market cap, a high percentage of the stock shorted. If they sort of gather into one or two or three stocks, they can sort of like bully the big dogs at least a little bit. And so that's where we're at. Like that's where we're at right now in terms of like how these stocks have been going. Just one second, guys. I'm going to grab some water. I'll be right back. All right. And I am back. Thanks, guys, for that. But no, I mean, that could be a potential outcome. But I don't know if that's going to be, if like people are just going to forget about this in a few days and like that'll be that, right? Like, I'm not sure. So, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I think a lot of people are starting to get like, even if you're not like a socialist, people are seeing a real-time example of inequality. Because it's not just inequality in terms of like wealth and income. It's also like power and things like that, and the ability of influence. Well, you're seeing a lot of this. Like, people are saying, like CNN earlier. Let me see if I can find the headline. Because the headline, you could tell, like CNN had this headline. And they said here, a group, let me drop the headline in the link for you guys. Or in the chat. They say here, like, and you could tell they're like, what they're trying to do, right? Which is like make it look like these people are evil or whatever. But look at this headline. Look at the framing. A group on Reddit's Wall Street Bets have been promoting stocks hoping to squeeze short sellers that have been betting against or succeeding. Their best known bet is GameStop, which is up another 100%. And look at the headline here on CNN. AMC is today's GameStop. A Reddit mob sent its stock more than 200% up. A Reddit mob. Guys, look, the post literally below it is about the other one on January 6th. So literally, if you search CNN and MOB, it'll bring up GameStop and then the Capitol. That's the analogy they're using is a bunch of like young people, mostly young like guys, right? Because that's like the Reddit demographic. A bunch of young guys got together today, bought up some stocks, and they're basically no different to CNN than what happened in Washington. That's the framing. That's the framing. Because again, like, when a few rich people or a couple hedge funds get together to short a stock, it's just business. When regular people do it, it's a mob irrationally attacking the market and bringing irrationality in and all those sorts of things. It's very transparently just like pro-establishment, right? Like there are people that deserve this and there are people that don't. It's sort of like how like a regular person went into like a rich person's casino and then started winning, and they were like, we're banning you from our casino. When it's like, you're not banning me because I'm winning as much as you're banning me because who I am and I'm winning and how I'm winning. So we'll see what happens. Well, exactly, Dan. That's exactly the argument. Like regular people invest in a company or a couple companies, equal mob. Billionaires do it, visionary capitalism. Visionary capitalism. That's how it is. Well, in here too, like Jordan Ull, which is one of my favorite follows on Twitter, and he has a great tweet here, which shows how, again, capital will 100% be hypocritical a-holes about this. I guarantee it. He says here, 2008 financial collapse. You should have considered the risk. Student loan debt. You should have considered the risks. Credit card debt. You should have considered the risks. Hedge fund makes a risky bet and might go under. It's not their fault. Shut everything down. That's the point here. Back in 2008, capital got bailed out, but retail investors didn't really, right? Homeowners didn't. People that invested in an education and then had no job to go to, they didn't get bailed out. In fact, in some ways, they say that, like, people that, like, I was fortunate enough that I went to grad school, right? And that I spent the next few years in grad school, and my funding wouldn't have been any higher or lower in grad school because of the financial collapse. I was sort of insulated from it. But, like, people that entered the job market right around 2007, 2008, 2009, around the time I graduated from undergrad, will forever be poorer than the people right before them and right after them. They will forever be poorer. On average, that micro generation, not even just millennials, but the millennials of that particular 36-month age gap will forever be poor. There's no bailout for them. None. But capital got a bailout. Not all of capital, of course, but some of the biggest, too big to fail firms got a bailout. And so, like, you can bet bet it all, guys. Bet all of your tendies from AMC and GME and all these things that, you know, if capital wants a bailout here, they might get it. But anybody that happened to lose money on AMC and GME, and people will, like regular people will, that's like the stock market. You can lose money. They will not get a bailout. There's not going to be somebody like, hey, I lost money on AMC. I lost, $1,200. Can I get a check for $1,200 from the government? Can I get a bailout? And the government will laugh you out of the building, if not like have guards beat you. But if this firm wants a few $100 million or $500 million or whatever, I honestly think they might get it. They might get it. So, I don't know. That's basically the story there. Again, Wall Street Bets was down earlier. They were down. I thought they might have been taken down, but they went private for a couple hours, it looks like. I think just to get a hold on what was happening. Because they gained, I think, almost 1.5 million subs on the subreddit in the last couple days. They currently have nearly 1 million people on the subreddit right now. They were actually banned from Discord. So for those who don't know, one, just while I'm here, let me link you this channel's Discord. So when you want to check out what we're doing in between streams, you can go there. But the Wall Street Bet guys, they had a Discord, and it was banned for quote unquote hate speech, inappropriate speech, whatever, which is BS, 100%. Because I don't doubt, I've seen the way some of the Wall Street Bet people talk. I have no doubt that there wasn't speech that that was bannable. I have no doubt in my mind. None at all. But I do believe that it was done specifically because of what was happening. And, you know, maybe Discord didn't want to be associated with this. They were worried about being seen as, I guess, like enabling, like, quote unquote market manipulation or whatever. So, like, that's a developing story. We're going to keep our eye on it. We're going to keep our eye on it. Another thing, good news today. Bernie Sanders has made, Bernie Sanders has yet again proved he's the king. Story from the Associated Press from a couple hours ago says that Bernie Sanders mittens and memes help raise $1.8 million for charity. Bernie Sanders put out these so-called, he put out a bunch of merchandise related to his meme. Of course, we know the meme. Bernie in the chair, you know, at the inauguration about a week ago now, with the mittens, the envelope, just the defining moment of that inauguration. Like, fine, Kamala Harris, first woman VP, cool. Joe Biden defeating Donald Trump, cool, I guess. Like, but no, it's Bernie in the midst, right? They raised $1.8 million for charity in a week off memes and mittens. Like, 1.8 million. So he put out the Chairman Sanders merchandise, including t-shirts, sweatshirts, stickers on his campaign website Thursday night. And the first run sold out in less than 30 minutes. The merchandise was added over the weekend and sold out Monday. Jane and I were amazed by all the creativity shown by so many people over the last week, and we're glad we can use my internet fame to help Vermonters in need, Sanders said in a written statement. But even this amount of money is no substitute for action by Congress, and I will be doing everything I can in Washington to make sure the working people in Vermont and across the country get the relief they need in the middle of the worst crisis we've faced since the Great Depression. So again, they raised $1.8 million. And Bernie, guys, and I always love it, Bernie never goes off message. Bernie's like, my Americans, I love charity. I can't do a Bernie voice. I can't do it. He's like, this charity is great, but we have to still fight for the working class and raise taxes on the rich and wealthy and well-connected. It's great. 1.8 million. And again, that's for people just in Vermont. Meaning, what's the population of Vermont again, guys? Vermont's population is 624. So that is just shy of $3 for every person in Vermont. Every citizen of Vermont, you know, Bernie raised $3 for every one of them, basically. It's pretty neat. That's pretty neat, guys. That's Bernie. He's the one. That's Bernie Sanders. One of the best. Yeah, Bernie was raising money for Meals on Wheels, various charities. I'm not sure if they changed the tactics given the level of money they've raised. So we'll have to see, but it certainly was a very big deal. AOC was just on Chris Hayes, as people have been noting. Speaking about the climate deal, apparently Tucker Carlson is again attacking AOC, basically saying that what happened at the Capitol wasn't that big of a deal, and that she should feel bad for herself for fearing for her life. Here's a
site. And when they do, Sandy Cortez will breathe easier. Back during the great terrorist siege of January 6th, Sandy Cortez found herself in the same city as Chewbacca Guy. Literally in the same city. Trapped and abandoned, just like those lonely, valiant troops in Corregidor so many years ago. She really thought she was going to die.
I had a pretty traumatizing event happen to me. I can tell you that I had a very close
So we've covered this, and Tucker Carlson is doubling down.
Die.
So thankfully, they've arrested Chewbacca Guy and the rest of his marauding band of terrorists, many of them well over 65 years old. So there's still a little justice in this country. But hairy stoners in Viking hats are not the only threat that Sandy Cortez faces tonight. No, far from it. There are the other members of Congress to worry about. Some of them are Republicans, and you know what that means. At any moment, these people are likely to open fire indiscriminately on the House floor purely out of racism. And of course, she's worried about that.
And he goes into his BS again. Again, I have to underline. Yeah, he calls her Sandy Cortez because I think some people have called her that before. It's a friend's nickname because it's Sandy is short for Alexandria. Maybe it's Alexandri, I don't know. In any case, that's what he calls her. He's trying to mock AOC. Again, I did a video on this probably a couple weeks ago now because right after it happened, they talked about this. Right after it happened, Tucker Carlson made fun of her. This was on, what day was this? I put this video up on, the 15th. So it was about a week after it happened. So a couple weeks ago now. Let me drop a link. And that was Tucker right there. Yeah. So, yeah. In any case, that's the link to that video. That's monstrous. That is monstrous. It is not unreasonable for AOC to believe that she was not at risk. Or it's not unreasonable for her to believe that her life was at risk. Given everything we saw, and given what we heard after, we saw the zip tie guy, we saw all of it, that there wasn't a big risk for everyone there. Everyone. Law enforcement, staff, and the actual representatives, like senators and congresspeople. Mike Pence was there as well. But I don't think it's unreasonable to expect particular risk to people like AOC and so many others. Right? I don't think it's unreasonable to make that point. I don't think it is. I don't think it's unreasonable at all. And people are mocking her. And guys, I'm going to be honest, and we're going to get into this because it's one of the things we plan to talk about tonight. So it's kind of a fortuitous segue. One of the people mocking her, or some of the people mocking her, in a way not too distinct from that, were people like Mr. Jimothy Dore. I said Jimothy because of the Office. Mr. James Dore and his ilk also downplayed what happened. Specifically on that day. And I was perturbed on social media because about 24 hours after I posted that video, 24 hours after Tucker Carlson first mocked AOC for daring to feel unsafe at a moment where she should reasonably feel unsafe, Jimmy Dore went on Tucker Carlson's show. He went on it. And I get it. Look, I'm not going to judge people inherently for going on Fox. Although I do think there is a difference between Bernie, say, doing a town hall on Fox versus going on one of the primetime opinion shows, which are not at all newsy and are 100% propaganda. But even then, there's a difference between, say, Nomiki going on Tucker a while back and basically getting into a rumble with him versus Jimmy Dore going there and helping Tucker legitimize talking points against other people on the left, or at the very least, not on the right. And look, I get that Jimmy Dore doesn't like AOC because she won't go on his show. There's no other reason. Forced to vote is not the real reason. He doesn't like AOC because she won't go on his show anymore. I get it. But he didn't take a moment to suggest to Tucker that he was wrong about what he said about AOC. Didn't do it. He went on there to, like Tulsi Gabbard does on Tucker, to legitimize Tucker's credibility as anti-establishment and as not a traditional conservative. So like he's better than a lot of the traditional conservatives because he'll talk about like issues like Assange and things like that. But when the chips were down, he went on Fox 24 hours, exactly 24 hours, like the next night, to legitimize the man that gleefully laughed at AOC as she feared for the last moments of her life. Representative of the left, Jimmy Dore, ladies and gentlemen. That's him. That was him. And so I was not happy about that. And I thought it was a particular example of how, like, what defines the politics of far too many people that we all gave the benefit of the doubt to is hating libs. That's all it is. All it is, hating libs. Jimmy Dore's politics are, if I say someone's a lib, I hate them. And I hate them more than I hate Tucker Carlson or the Boogaloo guys. Yeah, people are saying, like, lots of people have done some good videos. David Dole did a good video on this. Mike Figueredo at Humanist Report. Mike Figueredo did a good video. People are saying Matt, but I haven't seen it yet. Let me check. I do subscribe to Matt, but let me see. People are saying Matt Bender put up a video on it. Where is that? I don't see it on my subscription list, although maybe I'm missing it. But Matt Bender put up a video on it. Lots of people have been talking about it. I know that the Young Turks have talked about it. Tim Black has talked about it, and very forcefully. Lots of people have weighed in. Shane Barretto says, I finished The Fate of Labor Socialism by James Naylor. It's been a great help in framing force the vote stuff. Thanks. Shane, that's a great news. Thank you for the support. That book by Jim Naylor is fantastic. I've recommended it before when people are like, which books should you read? It's, this is to understand the Canadian left. And this is a good one of like the early CCF, which was basically Canada's, like, it's sort of, it exists still today, at least institutionally, in the New Democratic Party, the NDP. And it's sort of like Canada's Labour Party, although in Canada, unlike in Britain and other Commonwealth countries, it was kind of like a merger of farmer and labor issues. In that way, it was sort of similar to some of the U.S. progressive movements, which were like included elements of like unions and stuff, but they also included like farmers who were struggling against the big banks and against the companies that, the agriculture companies that would make them play off each other. So they would form unions and cooperatives to stand up to, capital, whether it was the factory owner or whether it was like the agribusiness firms. Samantha says that the video is up on the Discord in the video section. That's great. Like, again, there's video sections, memes, things like that. So a lot of people share, whether it's their own stuff or whether they other cool stuff they found on social media. Do check that out. So it's another great reason to join the Discord. But look, I mean, I think that it's a great book, and I think it shows that, building socialism is not about hashtags. It's about organizing. It's about real deep thought. It's about hard work. It's like, look, this is what Michael Brooks talked about, guys. Like, this is what Michael Brooks talked about. Right? Like, it's not just like yelling on the internet. Like, it's not just that. It's about organizing. It's about really thinking about, like, systems and power relations. Right? And, like, you got to take it seriously. And that doesn't mean everyone's got to be a wonk. Right? It doesn't mean everyone's got to have Congress procedure memorized. Right? But it does mean that, like, people have to have a good sense of, like, solidarity. And I just think the way that forced the vote thing happened, and frankly, I'm beyond that, because I think Jimmy is like, some of the people, most of the people in that particular movement, I just had disagreements with, almost unequivocally respectful disagreements. But honestly, like, the way this Boogaloo boy thing happened is just awful. So for those who don't know, and do check out all those videos, check out the Binder video, check out Tim Black, check out the Humanist Report, Rational National, Young Turks. They've all done content. The Majority Report, I think, was the first to really cover the issue. Sam Cedar and co. at the Majority Report. So I can't add, like, I'm not going to add too much on the details, but basically, Jimmy had a guy on his show, did an extensive interview with him, and he is a Boogaloo boy. And the Boogaloo boys are they are not necessarily a coherent movement. We're not talking about something as defined and organized as, say, like the Proud Boys. It's not the same. They're not the same kind of movement. They're not necessarily, with one charter or ideological code, but they are on the right. Not all of them are racially motivated, but many of them are. Not all of them are prone to physical force, but many of them are. And they have been linked to a lot of troubling actions. And so Jimmy, just at this guy's word, accepts the argument that the Boogaloo boys are actually pro-LGBTQ, that the Boogaloo boys support Black Lives Matter, that the Boogaloo boys support the civil liberty movements of the left, when in reality, it's just not true, right? Like, isolated members might, but lots of people did very in-depth research, going through Discords, going through prominent members' social media, tweets and Facebook posts and things like that. And these guys are clearly on the right. The best thing you could say about them is they are on the quote-unquote libertarian right, perhaps. But that does not make them allies of the left. That doesn't make you an ally of the left to simply be anti-establishment. Right? It does not make you anti-establishment. Like, it does not make you on the left to just be like, I don't like the establishment. It's not enough to just hate the libs, guys. We have to have a coherent project of action. And the project has to be achievable and based on good faith. And I don't think that particular segment of the movement, who would rather go to Tucker Carlson and help him legitimize his mocking of AOC almost losing her life, I don't think that that's the priority. And that's like Jimmy. He's like, look, Jimmy's like, look, AOC, I don't trust her. She's a snake. She's a fraud. She's a liar. She's a traitor. We should primary her. She's no better than Joe Crowley, Bernie Sanders, who lost family members to the awful regime of in Germany. He's one of them. He basically said, if I say the word, I'm going to get demonetized. But the NAZI movement, he called Bernie one of them back when the primary was wrapping up. Called them that. This guy does not extend good faith to anyone on the left. But he will go on Tucker Carlson, and when a Boogaloo boy comes on his show and just says, actually, we believe in most of what you believe, and so therefore we're pretty cool, He just takes it at face value. The best you can say about that, right? The best you can say is someone's a useful idiot. Like, by that I mean that, like, I'm not necessarily casting nefarious aspersions. Like, people will often throw around against Jimmy, but also by people like Jimmy towards others. Like, oh, that person is CIA, or that person is an op. And, like, look, I have no proof of any of that, and I find that would be very unlikely. I think he honestly just really hates the left and sort of just trusts anybody on the right that has an anti-establishment demeanor. Right? It's not about actually being anti-establishment. It's about having a certain phraseology and network of communication and relationships. If you are anti-establishment in the right way, then you can be on the far right and you're more of a friend to Jimmy in his eyes than AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Bernie Sanders, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, etc. Remember, his boy Tucker was having private dinners with George W. Bush. Now, if there's anybody more establishment than George W. Bush, I don't know. The dude is 100% establishment. Dad was president. Dad was CIA. Dad was a military guy. He was a governor, president, oil man. Now that he's not president, he's basically in the cool kids club with Barack and Michelle and Bill and Hillary and all the rest. And then Tucker had dinner with him. Because Tucker's not anti-establishment. He just knows it's the best way to curry power and influence and ratings and things like that. Yeah, fits in there. Aesthetics, that's a good one too. Aesthetics, right? Like how you present physically, narratively, things like that. That definitely is something that's happening. And so honestly, I think it's good that people have started to criticize him here. That he's really getting some pushback on this in particular, because it's very concerning. And I feel like it does hurt the left. It does offer false legitimacy to other people. Whatever you think of Jimmy, like, he has a fan base. He has many, many people, like hundreds of thousands of subs and maybe tens of thousands a day that will watch him, that really agree with him, believes what he says, trusts him, and he's building a false consciousness. Like, he's building a false consciousness among a lot of his viewership, right? You know? You know, that's something that's very concerning. Like, if you go, like, people did this, but if you go to that video of him interviewing the Boogaloo guy or whatever, let me see if I can find that. Because I don't want to misrepresent, but the comments of that video really show, like, what kind of audience he's either cultivating or attracting or both. Right? So it here, like, here it says, okay, so here's the video. He, first of all, he calls the Boogaloo boy an anarchist when he's not. He's an anarcho-capitalist at best, and they are not anarchists, right? They believe in the hierarchy of corporations. And so he basically, like, is it here, or was it under the live stream? Under the live stream, I believe it had comments like, it's not left and right. It's establishment versus anti-establishment, right? It's not left versus right. It's top versus bottom. We need to unite the far left and the far right. And if we do that, we can defeat the corporate centrists. Jesus Christ, guys. Jesus Christ. That's the audience he is cultivating. I mean, look, people from the Dore audience are welcome here. Like, I have people, like Trump supporters come on the stream sometimes. Dore people come on the stream sometimes. That's fine, right? Like that's fine. As long as everyone is respectful and what have you. But look, the fact of the matter is, like, anti-establishmentism is not politics. Right? Anti-establishmentism is not politics. It is not merely enough to say, I hate the establishment. It's not. Especially where you're going to unite with the far... Like, people are like, oh, we got to unite with the far right. Do you know what that entails? Like, do you know what that entails? That entails the fundamental dehumanization of so many of our sisters and brothers. That's what that entails, right? Because you're going to be like, oh, we got to build an alliance with the Tom Cottons of the world or whatever, the Rand Pauls of the world, the quote-unquote libertarians, and then maybe we can get what we want. First of all, you won't. Those people don't support Medicare for all. They don't support better working conditions. They don't support stronger unions. Even if you leave aside, like, the social issues and identity politics, even if you leave those things aside, the right does not agree with the left. Right? But that's what a lot of these people are talking about. We got to build an alliance of anti-establishment types. Like, Tim Black talked about this. A lot of people of color have talked about this. A lot of racialized people have talked about it. That's code word for sell out members of the racialized community. There is a difference. Some people are saying Bernie uniting with right-wingers. There's a difference between isolated votes in the House of Representatives, where Bernie, for instance, votes with Mike Lee to limit the executive power of the president to unilaterally declare conflict, which is what Bernie and Mike Lee did back in January, last January, where they got together just before Trump almost led the U.S. to war with Iran. And they made it clear that, like, if the country goes to war, the Congress decides, not the president, at least not unilaterally. There's a difference between that and being like, the real enemies are AOC. AOC is the real enemy. You know who our friends are? The Boogaloo Boys and Tucker Carlson. And I don't care if Jimmy's not saying that directly. It's what his actions imply and underscore. And it's clearly what his audience is hearing. The friends of the left are the far right. The enemies are the social democrats, the democratic socialists, and racialized people, minorities, and things like that. That's basically what people are reasonably hearing. Oh, yeah, and that's beyond, like, Jimmy's conceited nature. He's like, I made AOC. Like, you know, or people should be nice to me. Like, I shouldn't have to be nice to AOC. They should be nice to me because I have this big honking audience, and people should be nice to me. Could you imagine, guys? Could you imagine if David Dole or I or Mike Figueredo or whatever were like, Jagmeet Singh, you have to come on my show. And if you don't come on my show and talk about issues in the way I want, it's your fault if I attack you. Right? Like, that's what it is. It's like, hey, Matthew Green, who's been on the show, but it's like if Matthew Green wouldn't come on the show, and then all of a sudden I make him my enemy. I would much rather sound like Sam Cedar than Jimmy Dore any day of my fucking life. 100%. 100%. One is a good faith actor. I don't think the other is. Don't always agree with Sam, but I think he's a good faith actor on the left. The other one wants to make the biggest elements of the left in the United States his principal targets. The guy called Bernie a Nazi. I am not putting up with that. I said it now. We might get demonetized. I don't care. Jimmy Dore called Bernie Sanders the people that ended an entire branch of Bernie's family 70 years ago. Spare me with Jimmy Dore being a good faith ally of the left. I do not want to hear it. If anything, like, I think people have been far too lenient on him. If anything. Like, look, Jimmy did say that. Jimmy did say that. Let me see if I can find the clip here. It shouldn't be too hard to find. Let me see. The worst, okay, if I can't find it, let me explain it while I look for it. But the basic line of argument was that when Bernie dropped out of the primary, he asked, he wanted people to vote for Biden and these sorts of things. And then Jimmy basically casually suggested that it was the kind of thing like Nazis do or something. Let me see if I can find this. Okay. Well, in any case, let me, like, here's the link to the clip, because sometimes audio's kind of hard when I'm just calibrating everything from Twitter. So the link is from January 20th, 2020, or March 20th, 2020. So just
She told people on Tuesday, don't fuck. She told people on Tuesday, don't fucking vote. This is stupid, and we should stop this. Bernie and the DNC and Biden said, go ahead, go vote. Which to me is kind of, it's sociopathic that they did that. And so it's over. That it is sociopathic. That's the kind of stuff Nazis do. I talked about even ISIS told their people. Even ISIS told their people, don't do jihad because of the coronavirus. Stay home. The Democratic Party, Joe Biden, Tom Perez, and Bernie Sanders said go vote. Bernie questioned. He was like, well, I don't know if we should.
So first of all, you can see the framing there, right? You guys could hear that, right? He's trying to suggest that Bernie Sanders is a Nazi. And let's also be clear here. Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Joe Biden before Bernie Sanders. That was Jimmy Dore's girl, but leave that aside. Bernie Sanders was fighting extremely hard to get every one of those primaries postponed. He wanted the Florida primary and all of those primaries postponed. He did. Bernie was like, we need to get these primaries postponed. Brianna Joy Gray, who I know in some of these issues has sort of leaned towards Jimmy's side, but to her credit, absolutely, to Bree's credit, she took so much crap from the Biden and neoliberal people for saying it's not safe to vote. We should do everything in our power to let people vote safely. Let's postpone the primaries and go ahead. And then people like Neera Tanden, God, I hate her so much, were like, the Bernie camp is trying to suppress the vote. It was Joe Biden, and I will say it, Joe Biden was telling people to go vote. Joe Biden was telling people it was safe to vote indoors in April, in March, in May. Joe Biden did that. In fact, guys, David right here, one of the reasons, I think, one of the reasons, not the only reason, one of the reasons Bernie dropped out when he did was because of COVID. Bernie did not want to put your life at risk, so he dropped out earlier than he normally would. Right? Simple as that. And regardless, I would not compare Bernie Sanders to the most dangerous far-right movement in the last 100 years. 150 years, whatever. Maybe all-time history. I don't know. Probably. I would not make that comparison. Not make that comparison. David notes here, Jimmy's hung up on Fred Hampton, believes leftists who speak to ordinary right-wingers will turn him around, believes that if he's correct or not, it's truly fair to say he wants, is it truly fair to say he wants racist objectives? I mean, look, my point is not that we shouldn't talk to the vast majority of regular Americans, Canadians, whatever, about the politics that can unite us. But there's a couple caveats there. We should never sacrifice our black, our LGBTQ, and our Muslim brothers and sisters and non-binary folks in the process. It is one thing to go to people and talk and emphasize economic and universal social issues. Bernie was good at that. But Bernie never once sold out by going to the far right and saying, yes, I want Medicare for all, but we'll compromise and we'll say no Medicare for all for this racial group. Or we'll compromise and say Medicare for all, but we'll build the wall twice as high as Trump wanted to build it. He never did that. And I'm not saying Jimmy is necessarily doing that, but that is a path where you want to build a red-brown alliance. You want to build a Nazbol alliance. You want to build a far-right, far-left alliance. The left things you get, if you want to build an alliance with the far right, will come at the expense of marginalized people. There's no other way. Because what else is the far right getting? Like, what are they getting? Well, yeah, and you know, exactly, TRCR, yeah, Indigenous people, both in Canada and the United States, and thank you for reminding me yes, that certainly includes Indigenous people, Native Americans, First Nations, 100% includes them, and they should not be forgotten. And there's also a difference between talking to a regular at-home Fox News viewer and a Boogaloo boy. There is a difference there. Just like there's a difference between a standard Trump supporter and a Proud Boy, or a standard Trump supporter and one of the people that went into the Capitol. They might have similar views, but there are some people that are easier to reach. And yes, a lot of people have really pointed out the very shallow nature of that argument that Fred Hampton and other leaders from like the civil rights era worked with quote unquote like white nationalists, white supremacists. It's really not true. Like the people were saying the Young Patriots were white nationalists or whatever, and they weren't. They were actually anti-racist. Some of them did use the Confederate flag in some of their promotions, but it was an act of reclamation, and frankly, a lot of the discourse around that flag had not developed yet, and so it wasn't necessarily seen as clearly problematic as it is 50 years later. They did not work with white nationalists. Andre Dumise, go check him out on Twitter. One of the brightest voices on Twitter. Let me find their Twitter account. Let me see. Let me find that. I'll drop the link to you guys. Andre is a historian. He's a writer. He's hilarious, and you should definitely check him out. And he, I don't know exactly where, but he made some good comments about how it's not necessarily appropriate to compare, Hampton working with certain white groups as like working with the far right. I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think that's far too simplistic and maybe just out and out incorrect. But I think that the biggest factor, guys, and somebody made a post about this on social media, like, we don't need to work with the far right. Yes, exactly. Nathan in particular, he's right. Andre is a great source, contemporarily and historically on black leftism. Not just that, of course, but he's a great follow. And so do check him out. He streams on Twitch, or used to stream on Twitch, or does it sometimes, but follow him on Twitter. It's where you know you can get him. And in any case, we have to be clear. There should be no prioritization of reaching out to the quote-unquote far right who believes in the fundamental dehumanization of key elements of the working class. When, like not even everyone votes yet. Not even everyone votes yet. Like, look, 2020 presidential election, right? 2020 presidential election had a 66.7% turnout. So, like, literally about 2/3 of the eligible voting population voted. So before we have to prioritize and go reach the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys and these types, it's like there's 1/3 of the goddamn country that didn't vote for anyone. And disproportionately, guys, they are younger, they are poorer, they are more racialized than the median population. That doesn't, of course, mean that if all non-voters are poor, black, young people, poor minorities, but it does mean that on average, for a variety of reasons, alienation to voter suppression to things like that, it does not make sense. It is not based on solidarity of the working class to all of a sudden just look to anti-establishmentism. Ty Andrews says Jimmy Bohr just trying to get in where he fits in. He loves that right-wing support of his show and free vacations to Italy. Like, look, again, I'm sure that Jimmy's got a very eclectic base. I'm sure there are a lot of people on the left that watch Jimmy Dore and appreciate that he is willing to criticize the left. And there's a place for that. And I'm not suggesting that every aspect of his criticism has been incorrect. But it's also probably the case that some of his viewership is there simply to hear him criticize the left or the Democrats or anybody who isn't the right. Because, like, a good chunk of his content isn't really aimed at criticizing the right. And that's fine, but it does necessarily mean that you may build an audience that has different desires and impulses than what many of the other left-wing channels have, where there's criticisms of both the mainline Democrats but also Trump and also Republicans, which is what we do and which is what David Dole does and Mike Figueredo does and so many other channels do, right? Like, I mean, look, I experienced a bit of this. I experienced a bit of this back during the primaries. Especially once it became clearly Bernie versus Biden, much of my content shifted to be explicitly anti-Biden. And so if I made a lot of anti-Biden videos and some of them did very well, some of those subscribers were not at all Bernie supporters, but just Trump supporters or anti-Democratic Party supporters. Right? And when I shifted my content towards criticizing Trump, a lot of those people unsubscribed or stopped watching. So if you build an audience based off criticism of the Democratic Party, it becomes difficult to shift away from that. Right? And I acknowledge Jim. I'm not a regular viewer of Jimmy Dore, but I do acknowledge that he has criticized conservatives. He has criticized Trump, but the ratio on his channel is different than many other channels, and that's fine. Individual creators do not have the same responsibility to have a balanced content necessarily in the way that I would expect from like a network. Like CNN can't like if you're a small team or a one-person show, you can only do so much. Like there's so many more things I want to talk about, but I literally do this channel on my own. I don't have an editor. I don't have anyone else's help. Like Brianna co-hosts this stream sometimes with me. It is literally a one-man show, 100%, right? So it's like I can only make so many videos a day. I can only talk about so many things a day, you know? So, like, it's definitely something. And a lot of people are noting, there's a good comment here. Let me see. Shane saying, on a purely tactical level, not including marginalized groups as part of the deal results in the deal having fractures that can undo it. Yeah, 100%. Like if you want to de-emphasize identity politics, I don't think you necessarily have to, because I think identity is important and it means a lot to people. But like, if you want to, the only way you'll ever do it is by building an inclusive working class. As long as the working class is fragmented, then identity will continue to matter more than class, right? And also, like, it just matters because, like, when you think of, like, the typical working class person, again, we've talked about it on this stream and on my channel. Like, you think of a white guy in overalls, working in a factory, maybe driving a truck. And that's a big part of the working class. But when you think of the actual, as a proportion, the people that work, that do like working class labor, that work for minimum wage or close to it, that have precarity and the real working class struggle, as a percentage, that person is very likely to be a woman of color. You look at who makes minimum wage, who does a lot of the working class labor in the United States and in Canada as well. They are disproportionately likely to be women, and then further disproportionately likely to be non-white women. Who serves your coffee? Who makes your stuff at McDonald's? Those things like that. Who rings you up at the cash register at the grocery store? Things like that. Those people are women, disproportionately. That's the working class, right? So when we talk about building like a working class politics, if disproportionately the working class is female, racialized, and things like that, it doesn't make sense to exclude the rights and issues of women and people of color. And look, none of this is to say that like there's no points here on the Jimmy side, and none of this is to say that I agree with how some people have criticized, for instance, Brianna Joy Gray. I do think that like some people noted they tapped into angry black woman tropes. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I've seen some good faith disagreements with her, and I don't think she's always been correct, but I definitely think that you can see manifesting in some criticisms of her problematic ways of doing it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't think there's anything controversial about saying that. That, you know, she's a black woman, and black women, when they step on anyone's toes, whether it was her with MSNBC or her with other elements of the left. Yeah, I could see that. And there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. I mean, I don't think I'm promoting division, Tiger Knight. I mean, this really started, like, if you want to go into it, this really started because AOC didn't want to take one specific tactical procedure. That's really what started a lot of this division. Right? And as Jimmy noted, it started also because she had the audacity to engage with the debate. That when someone tweeted at her, she answered. And so AOC, because she dared to engage, it created this situation. I don't think it's fair to blame any one side of this debate unequivocally for causing division, of course. But I definitely think that if division was caused here, it was by people that made out the half dozen to 1 dozen, let's say anywhere from 6 to 12, anywhere from like 6 to 12 good members of the House, making them out to be traitors and making them out to be no different from Pelosi or Schumer simply because they did not agree with one particular tactic. And I don't think that was done in fully good faith. And I don't think that we can ignore that that's what created a lot of division. So again, even if that inherently you don't believe it caused division, if something did from my perspective, it was that. It was not the discussion around it. It was the immediate desire to frame anyone who dared to disagree with the force the vote strategy, a fraud, a sellout, things like that. Like immediately, Jimmy Dore started suggesting that there was no point of putting AOC in Congress because we might as well just have kept Joe Crowley because we know he's awful, but like AOC's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. But it ignores the fact that beyond force the vote, AOC's voting record is highly distinct from Crowley, and it's highly distinct from so many others that, like, she's already demonstrating her value. And that goes beyond, any one particular issue. I don't know. That's my perspective. I really think that the way that happened was the cause of any division that we saw. That's my view. I mean, people, and again, this wasn't just Jimmy, of course. This wasn't just Jimmy. He might have been the biggest voice, because just by virtue of his substantial like YouTube footprint and social media footprint, like he was one of the biggest voices in this debate. But there were people making lists. Right? There were people like making lists where it's like row 1, the good force the vote people, row 2, sort of agnostic, row 3, like do nothing neoliberal shills. I think I found myself eventually on list 3. So, I mean, that's basically it. That's basically it. Like, it's just like my view of getting it done is like, you just need more votes. Like, I know that's like, that sounds like pushing it off, but you need more votes. You need more votes. The problem is that you don't have enough progressives in Congress in the Senate especially, but even in the House, to get it done. And I'm not necessarily against forcing the vote inherently, but there are issues about, is this the issue you want to take your like 300 style stand on? And then also, like, what effect does it have? One of the reasons why Cori Bush didn't get as many endorsements as you thought she might have was that Lacey Clay pretended to support the Green New Deal. And there's a risk that if you're a deep blue district Democrat, you might pretend to support Medicare for all, knowing that it'll fail. There's no guarantee that a vote will give you clarity. It's all these things. I don't want to get stuck into this again. See, I don't think he's an op. I don't think he's an op. I don't think anyone in this debate is an op. I just don't. I don't think that like Cenk is a neoliberal op, and I don't think that Jimmy Dore is he's an op for Tucker Carlson. I don't. I think that he genuinely believes what he's saying. Yet there might be economic incentives. Like his supporters like what he's saying. It's driving a lot of views. It may drive a lot of super chats, things like that. There may be economic incentives, but I don't know if it's an op. Like, I don't think that he's being hired by the Koch brothers to do it. So I don't think anyone's operating in that manner. And I've seen no evidence to suggest it. Real Progressive says a great democracy has got to be progressive, or it will soon cease to be great or a democracy. Thank you for your contribution, Christo. Well, Real Progressive, thank you for your contribution and your support. I very much appreciate that. No, you're right. You're 100% right. Democracy is not an everlasting thing, right? Democracies can recede, democracies can weaken, but democracies can grow and improve. And that's something that we I think are seeing more. And maybe January 6th for some people made that very real. Made that very real. Well, that's one argument. Raw Material says Kamala voted for Medicare for all knowing it would fail in the Senate. The force to vote movement is symbolic. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Kamala didn't just, I don't think it ever got a vote in the Senate, to be clear. But I think what you're implying is that Harris did not only co-sponsor the Medicare for all bill, but Harris was Bernie's first co-sponsor. That when Bernie brought it up, she was the first senator to co-sponsor it. The first. Not Ed Markey, not Liz Warren, not Merkley, not any of the other progressive-leaning senators. Kamala D. Harris. She doesn't support it anymore, apparently. Maybe she never did. But she was able to build credibility off of it. It's definitely a cat. Smokey is in the background. It's those things. Like, for instance, if we believe that votes are always important and are never symbolic or whatever, like, look at Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer's been voting way more progressively recently. Way more progressively. He voted to slash the Pentagon budget along with Bernie and Warren and a few others. He voted against the USMCA. Like, both of these votes were, he was one of few Democrats to vote with the Bernie wing of the Senate. And of course, he did that for a couple reasons. He did that because he's worried about a potential primary from AOC. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but he's clearly worried about the potential. And he knows you can cast that vote because the bill will pass. Because in both those cases, the vast majority of the Senate voted against the military budget cut, and the vast majority of the Senate voted for the USMCA. So, like, if there's 80 to 90 people voting yes or no on a bill, then you have the opportunity to cast a vote to make yourself look different. And so there's no reason to necessarily suggest that a House vote would be as clarifying as people think it is. That's just my view. Joseph says Smokey just vibing. So let me just, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene remains in the news. God, what a monster, guys. I don't know if you saw my video earlier today, but there was a clip that resurfaced of her attacking David Hogg, one of the Parkland kids. My God. Like, I know I probably say this every 2 years, but this batch of GOP Congress people are like the most insane. Like, they get crazier and crazier. So earlier today, we did a video on the channel where a clip came up of her confronting the children from the Parkland shooting, basically, where, a lot of those kids went on to speak out against some of the firearm laws in the United States, saying that there needed to be more regulation and things like that. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene confronted him, basically calling him a liar, saying that he was using children to steal our liberties and things like that. There's also a clip of her. I'm going to play the audio again of this. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene from February 2019. Okay? So this is a new GOP congresswoman 2 years ago, basically. And she was mad because two of the favorites on this channel, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, dared to swear their oath in Congress on the Quran instead of the Holy Bible. And she felt that this was either unconstitutional or offensive or what have you. So this was shared by Mehdi Hassan on Twitter earlier today. Here's the link. I'm going to play the audio.
They signed it, they swore in on the Quran.
Oh, we have the Bible. We're going to talk about swearing in on the oath, how to swear in on the Bible with them, and let them know what our law says, that you can't swear in on the Quran. So
that's bullshit.
We're going to explain that. We're going to explain about how you can't swear in on the Quran. And we're going to have the Bible and ask them if they going to have the Bible and ask them if they would swear in.
They shouldn't.
On
it's
the
not
Bible.
what they believe.
We really need them. We really need them.
We have the oath.
Yeah, we have the oath. Yep. So I think that's important.
The sad thing is now
you're infringing on our religion.
Which you should not.
You're infringing on our religion.
Yes.
By saying that we can't swear in on the Quran.
But when they swore in, it wasn't a law yet, right? At the time they swore in.
I don't know.
This is a woman in Congress, guys, and she's like talking with her people. Where one of the guys behind her is like, "Isn't that an infringement on their rights?" And she's like, "But it wasn't then." Like.
That wasn't passed because it wouldn't have been passed in a Republican control.
So she just admits that the Republican Party would not expect the rights of minorities.
After they swore in, so they're not really official, I don't think. So let's go ask them to swear in the Bible, because like you said, Will,
It has to be the Holy Bible?
Doesn't have to be the Bible.
It has to be the Bible.
Well, the bottom line is Sharia law is not compatible.
Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar do not believe in Sharia law.
Yep.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
How can you say you represent women, but you support Sharia law?
So that there, she was targeting in particular Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, because they were both rookie congresswomen that were just sworn in. Because remember, they got elected in the 2018 midterms, which means they swore in January 2019. That clip is from February 2019. And she's there to be like, they swore in on the Quran. it doesn't count because it's got to be the Holy Bible, which again is not true. You don't have to swear in on the Bible or really or any particular like book of faith. You can swear in on anything that I think has meaning to you, right? You know? Like, well, and exactly, Anmar, that's right. The Sharia law is not in the Quran. And of course, swearing on the Holy Bible does not necessarily mean that you have to live by the explicit rules of the Bible, be they Old or New Testament. We know this. And of course, like, let's be real. Let's be 100% real. The Bible is chock full of a lot of misogyny too. So if you're like, oh, we can't swear in on we can't swear in on the Quran because it's unfair to women. I'm like, have you read the Bible? Like, have you read this book and how women come off in this book? The Bible is not a 50-50 power sharing arrangement between men and women. And again, as you guys noticed there, you Dafrax with the controversial point that I am not as attractive as Rashida Tlaib, which of course is objectively true. I am not. Neither Ilhan Omar. They're both objectively far more attractive than I am. I don't think any reasonable person would disagree. But you know how you see what she did there? Like she thinks she hears the rumor that like, oh, it used to be. Now you can come in on the Quran, but then you couldn't before. But then the GOP would never accept that. So she's telling on herself there, right? She's telling on herself there. She's like, oh, Republicans would never respect the pluralistic, multi-religious nature of our 21st century society, right? And like, let me see. I've heard rumors about like this. And in particular, if you remember, and this is another good point, back in 2000, and this is a history because another Bernie supporter, and to his credit, one of the first people, let me share this article with you. This is the article about Keith Ellison. Now, by now, most of you might know who Keith Ellison is. He's the Attorney General from Minnesota, but he was a Bernie backer in 2016. Ran to be DNC chair, but lost to Tom Perez because we can't have anything nice. But crucially, he was the first Muslim ever elected to Congress. So he got elected in 2006, first Muslim in Congress, and would take the oath with his hand on the Quran. Right? So it's actually even this was decided more than 10 years before. I didn't remember this story. And so a lot of people were really mad about this back in 2006. But actually there's no thing here. And if you go to the Constitution, it says, the Constitution of the United States states, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. That's Section 6, Article 3. And at least 4 presidents have not been sworn in on a Bible. Right? You do not need you do not need to have that. And this was a real great move by Keith Ellison. He swore in on Thomas Jefferson's Quran, because Thomas Jefferson, despite being in many ways a monster, let's be real, I'm not going to humanize Jefferson all that much. Jefferson was a man of the world, right? Like, he read very widely. And so he was not like the type of person to just not really read another text. So Thomas Jefferson had a copy of the Quran, right? He had a copy of it. And it was given to like the library, right? It was given to the Library of Congress. And when Keith Ellison was sworn in, he used Thomas Jefferson's Bible, or excuse me, Quran. Yes, it was Thomas Jefferson's Quran. Yeah. So I don't know. You could clearly, this woman is in Congress. This woman is in Congress. I found that information with like 7 seconds of Googling. She should have been able to realize that. But of course, either she didn't bother looking it up, or she knew, but also knew that all of her rabid right-wing fans and whatever didn't know that and wouldn't care, and she could build notoriety and all these sorts of things of trying to get Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar to reject Islam and swear on the Bible. It's insane, guys. As Nom the Net notes here, and thank you for the support, Nom the Net. It says here, not only can you swear on anything, e.g. the flag, copy of the Constitution, Ilhan Omar used a copy of the Quran used by her grandfather, and that's beautiful. And I mean, look, Joe Biden did the same thing. If you watch the inauguration, when Biden swore in, they mentioned that the Bible he swore in on, that it was a really giant Bible. It was like massive. Was a Bible that had been in his family since the 1800s, and he had sworn in every time he got an election. So every time he ran for the Senate and won, and every time that he when he became vice president, and now when he became president, he swore in on that particular Bible, which was of significance to his family. So yeah, like, that's like, she needs to be expelled. And actually, I believe somebody, a member of the House just came out with a resolution to expel her. Let me see. Where is it? Right here. Representative Jimmy Gomez announced today, this is a couple hours ago from Cal Griffin on Twitter, saying, Representative Jimmy Gomez announced today that he will introduce a resolution to expel Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from the U.S. House of Representatives. And he says here, I don't need to explain why. And he ats her in it. That's real alpha energy from Mr. Gomez there. Saying, is a clear and present danger to Congress and our democracy. She did it herself, and she must go. I'm introducing a resolution to expel her from Congress immediately. And it basically says here, this is the resolution. Let me bring it up here. This lady does need to go. We shouldn't be talking about expelling elected officers. We shouldn't be talking about it lightly. Like, just disagreeing with somebody shouldn't be grounds to expel them from office, of course. Love it or not, this lady was elected by the people. Like, she was elected, right? Like, she won an election and was elected. I mean, it's the reality. And so we can't just ignore that fact. But it's also the case that she's done particular evil. And so in notes here, I want to read this out. This is said here. In light of numerous reports revealing her repeated endorsements of sedition, domestic terrorism, and political violence, Congressman Jimmy Gomez announced today he will introduce a resolution to expel Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia from the House, as if it weren't enough to amplify conspiracy theories that the September 11th attacks were an inside job, and she did that. And she also criticized the Douglas High School shooting being fake. She, like, it just goes into all of these things, guys, that she is a clear and present danger. Like, Andrew Kaczynski from CNN, a couple days ago now, yesterday actually, found that she liked post endorsing the killing of fellow members of Congress. That's what she did. That's what this woman did. It says here, she liked a post in 2018 that wanted to quote-unquote hang Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi. And of course, we know what we saw outside the Capitol Hill buildings on the 6th. People were setting up a galley. Also suggested that rather than go with the pomp and circumstance of a hanging, that a bullet would be faster. And of course, as we recall, back in September, we made a video on this at the time. She basically, in her campaign ads, basically said, "I'm coming for the squad," and did so while brandishing an AR-15 or something of that sort. Like, this woman needs to go, guys. Oh, Boebert needs to go too. But in recent days, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene has jumped ahead. Like a lot of the things about Boebert revolve around alleged involvement in the events at the Capitol. And I think that until you can prove that, you probably have to lay off expulsion. But with Greene, a lot of this is more verifiable. And I think that her expulsion is probably more valid, independent of any potential involvement on the 6th. But I think, like honestly, I could see that coming. David asks, what would President Aivalis swear in? I'd probably just swear on the Bible. Like, I'm a person of at least loose religious beliefs, but I'm not exactly sure. Maybe the Bible, maybe a copy of the Regina Manifesto, which is the founding document of the CCF. Or not the founding document, that was the Calgary Declaration, but the principle, like, document of principles of the CCF. But I don't know, I guess I've never really thought about it. I'd probably just swear in on the Bible. You know, pretty basic bitch stuff. So we'll see. Let me look this up, because I'm not sure of the process of expulsion. Let me look this up, because I actually don't know how this works. It's different from impeachment, I think. Expulsion is the most serious form of disciplinary action that can be taken against a member of Congress. United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2, provides that each House of Congress may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. The processes for expulsion differ somewhat between the House and the Senate. Censure, a less severe form of disciplinary action, does not remove a member from office. So, you need 2/3. You need 2/3. Most of the expulsions in history revolved around people that were Confederate traitors back during the Civil War. Like 20 people have been expelled from Congress, 17 of which were Civil War related. 17 of the 20 were expelled for supporting the Confederate Rebellion, namely 14 senators, including former Vice President and John C. Breckinridge, and all these other types, and 3 representatives in the House. And then it says here, 3 other ones. In 1797, there was a senator expelled for treason. In 1980, there was a representative was expelled after being convicted of in bribery. And in 2002, there was a representative who was expelled after also being convicted on tax evasion and bribery. So, it's unlikely she's going to be expelled, guys. It's unlikely. Now, if they got smoking gun evidence that, one of these people was involved in the events on the 6th, like helping people do reconnaissance, letting them know where Jim Clyburn's secret office was. Because remember, Jim Clyburn has a decoy office and then has a real office somewhere else in the house, like in the house building. And so you kind of needed to know where his office was, and it might be the case that there was somebody on the inside that informed them. Maybe not, but could be. I definitely think that, like, if they produce evidence that, like, Lauren Boebert or whatever was meeting with some of the people that caused damage on the 6th, then yeah, that person might get expelled. There's also the political reality of it too. And this is where expulsion might happen. Like, the Republicans would be far more likely to expel if they're confident they're going to hold on to the seat. And that's one way that I think Greene could be in trouble. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene, let me see. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a member from the 14th District. And the 14th District is R plus 27. It's R plus 27. It has been, for as long as this district has existed, it's been Republican. And the district, the best the Democrats have ever done in this district has been about 25% against Greene. She was actually the worst, in 2012, the Democrats got 27% in the district. So it is heavily red. So hypothetically, at least, they could turf her. Mr. Katz says, hold AMC. Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely think that, look, I'm not a stock advisor, but I definitely think that there is still the chance that a lot of these waves are not done yet, of course, because I still think there's a lot of renewed interest. So you could see some of these companies continue to rise. And right now, in after-hours trading, mostly institutional people are involved. But in any case, that district is very safely red. So if it does come down to it, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you could see her turfed, because if you get rid of her, you don't really lose anything. Like, she's gone, and then, like, there'll be another person elected in a special election. Like, same thing. Let me look Lauren Boebert. She's from Colorado, I believe, which is a bluer state, but she's from a red district in that state, I believe. Yeah, she's from Colorado 3rd District, which is the almost half the state geographically. It's basically the entire western half of the state almost. So very big district, very conservative district in that sense. It is her district actually, is only R plus 6. Lauren Boebert's district is only R plus 6. So I think that from a purely political perspective, you would rather expel Greene. Because if you expel Greene, then whenever the special election is, you'll get another Republican. Almost certainly. With Boebert, though, plus 6, maybe not. You expel Boebert, there's a chance you don't get another Republican. So, sort of like let's be real. Let's be real that, like when Al Franken, because of that scandal, the Al Franken scandal, like, he stepped down, but it was way easier for the Democrats to force him out or to ask him to step down, because they knew that they wouldn't lose anything for it. Like, he's from a deep blue state, or fairly blue. Minnesota's not deep blue as much as it used to be, but it's pretty comfortably blue. And they have a Democratic governor. So when Al Franken was out, resigned, they got another Democrat. So there's the politics there too, right? There's the politics there too. So maybe that's one reason. You say, why Green and not Boebert? Maybe it'll have to do with politics. Because Republicans feel there's a risk to expelling Boebert, but not to expelling Green. And the House is so close that every member does matter. Like, it does matter if you get one more seat right now. It's not last time where the Democrats won by a huge majority, so every individual seat didn't really matter. Now every seat does matter. Yeah, people are saying the next stimulus check might not be till March. God, I don't know, guys, when it's going to come. It's been far too slow. It's really been far too slow. 100%. Like, even beyond the... is it 14 or is it 2? It should be 2. They said 2,000. They didn't say 1,400. It should be 2,000. But yeah, it's far too slow. It would have been a really smart move, I think, to like make it like a day one thing. To get the House on day one to pass an individual bill on the stimulus checks. And then send that to the Senate. And then work out the rest later. Really make that commitment. We said we get them to you as fast as we can. Right? Oh, wow. Hey, Kyle. How's it going? That's pretty cool. Thanks for stopping by. I don't know if that's the actual Kyle. Is that the actual Kyle? I'm not sure. But that's cool. Thanks for stopping by. Like you, we were talking about stonks. I am a very lucky recipient of a follow of Kyle on Twitter, which was always nice. Actually, Kyle, I remember it because it was when I started making these. It was back when I started. It was really cool to have him follow me. Right? It's a spoof name of Kyle. That's too bad. That's fine. No, it's not. Okay, whatever. I'll just say it was really nice of him to follow me when I had I had like a couple thousand subs. One thing, wait, is it real? Okay, no, it's probably not real, is it? I don't know if there'd be a verified thing. In any case, I'm going to tell my stories. Also, go to old Kyle Kalinske tweets. If you want to see just like the funnest stuff, go to old Kyle Kalinske tweets. He so rarely misses, guys. He almost never misses. He almost never misses. But no, I definitely think it's time for Marjorie Taylor Greene to go. It's Chomsky pretending to be Kyle. See, that would just be like the inception of YouTube. That would just be the inception of YouTube. Yeah. But no, I definitely no. I definitely think that so many people have been very helpful. To me, and growing this channel. I've not been in sorry, I'm fake, but you're going to be big like him soon. Thank you so much for the support. Secular talk. I really appreciate it. But no, people have been really helpful. And I haven't had too much contact with Kyle, but he's always been gracious when I have had contact. And he's done such great work. Don't always agree with him, like I don't always agree with everybody, but yeah, he's great. And of course, like I've had more contact with people like David Dole, Mike Figueredo, things like that. I'm noticing a lot of trolls tonight. A lack of trolls tonight. A few things. One, we had some Jimmy Dore people here, but I think they most of them were in good faith, which was great to see. Now that Trump is somewhat off the front burner, we're getting less MAGA trolls, right? Like, this really isn't the kind of stream to drive trolls. You know, there is a lack of good faith. Or excuse me, there's a lack of trolls right now post-election, which is good to see because it keeps the discussion a little bit more friendly. David says hit the like button. Yeah, if you folks hit the like button, I don't know if it matters honestly, but from what I've heard, it's one of the things that YouTube uses to like move a video up or down its priority when people are like browsing and stuff. So hit the like button. It helps to let more people find the stream. In which case we might get a few more trolls, which would be kind of cool. I mean, we do get our fair share of trolls. I have a video, guys, on this channel. Okay, I have a video on this channel that has, and I'm not joking. Let me see which one is it. Is it this one? Let me see. It might be this one. Yes, it's this one. I did a video back in September. I'll give it to you here. I did a video back in September. It was a slow day on like some of the main stuff, and Newt Gingrich was on Fox News. Was on Fox News, and he did a segment where he was like critical of George Soros, and frankly, I think it was a bit conspiratorial. And then Fox News kind of called him on it, but then they got a lot of backlash. So then they apologized for the backlash, so I called them out on that. And that video, if you'll notice, got a ton of views for a channel of my size. Even now, I don't get very many videos getting 70, 80,000 views, of course, right? That one, if you look, it's got like 90% dislikes. It is an incredibly disliked video. And I think actually, now that I think about it, the one I made the day before on the same topic, actually, okay, that one was not as successful, the one from the day before, and not as disliked. So that one, yeah, I have had my fair share of trolls. Yeah, that one was a mixture of like, my main audience didn't really care about that topic, but I was the only one or the first one to make a video on it, and right-wingers really cared. So when they searched for it on Google and YouTube, my video popped up, and then they all watched it and did not like what I had to say. But yeah, I've definitely gotten my fair share of trolls. So I believe I shared the link in the description, guys. Yeah, it's right there. It's a little bit further up, right there, but it's a good one. Avrisatos, yeah, if I said that right. If I told you last year that 2021 would start with Reddit going to war with Wall Street and viral TikTok sea shanties, what would you have thought? Okay. If you told me that in 2019, I would have called you insane. Would have had you referred. But after 2020, I'd be like, seems like a pretty chill month. Like, in all seriousness, though, I mean, no, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But yeah, it's been crazy. Like, it was wild today, where it's like at an official press conference. Like as you noted in the run up to my video on this topic, at the official press conference, there was they got a question on GameStop. I said GameStop, and like Jen Psaki, Biden's press secretary, had to answer a question about why the meme stock was going up so fast, and was Biden going to do anything about the meme stock? And it was wild that like that question came up. And it's like, it's the times we live in, right? Like, these moments are going to happen. And like, the internet is going to continue to shape politics and economics and finance. And so, yeah, it makes sense to me in some ways. Do I like Marvel movies? I do. I do like Marvel movies. I'm not like, well, it's weird. I'm not like a huge superhero movie guy, or at least I wasn't. So, for most of like the Marvel universe, I never really went to the theaters to go watch them. But then, when Disney Plus came out, which I picked up mostly to watch classic Simpsons, I said to my wife, who does like superhero movies or likes movies more than I do, whatever, I said, we should just go through and watch the Marvel movies. Like, watch, a couple a week, and we'll fill the backlog. Watch the Iron Mans, the Thors, like all of those things. And yeah, for the most part, I really like them. I feel like sometimes they're a bit long. Like, maybe they could all be a little bit shorter. Like, they're longer than the traditional, like, 90-minute movie, right? But I like them. Probably my favorite individual series might be Thor. I like the mixture of like the fantasy with the modern, and I like the humor of it. Like, it's a little bit funnier than the other Avengers ones. Guardians of the Galaxy is more obviously comedic, and I like those too. But yeah, I like Marvel movies. And I'm excited to see where they go. Like, with I haven't watched WandaVision yet. Like, I'm gonna watch it. I haven't started yet. But I'm excited to see where they go with some of their TV shows. They're the kind of expanding the universe. So, oh yeah, the second Thor movie wasn't very good, but I really liked Ragnarok. I feel like that's like, it was a very cool. I don't know. I think it's like. It's a very cool meta, like the lore around the Thor part of the story is very cool, I think. I like the first Thor. The second one wasn't that great. It wasn't, right? But like, I liked Ragnarok. And like, I'm not a huge fan of Iron Man as much because it's like this libertarian fantasy, right? Like, Iron Man is like this like anarcho-capitalist type, at least in the early stories. And I'm like, I don't want to cheer for that guy. I don't want to cheer for him. Like, they need like a socialist hero in the stories. Do I like Disney movies? Yeah, I like a lot of Disney movies. Yeah, like all the classic ones from when we were kids. Watch them with my son and stuff. Yeah, no, they're nice. It's good. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've been to the movies because before COVID. My son was born in November 2018. So he's 2 and a bit now, right? He's just over 2. So when you have a really young baby, you don't really get to go to the movies all that much. And so you think, okay, for the first year of your life, you basically go nowhere. And then, we got to go see, my wife wanted to go see the live action Aladdin. And we were able to do that by having her mother watch him for the evening while we went to go see it. And that was the last movie we saw in theaters. So that would have been the summer of 2019. So, because we didn't go, like we went to summer of 2019, didn't go during the fall, didn't go during early 2020, then COVID happened. And then obviously theaters are closed, things like that, right? So we weren't huge movie goers. Like, we didn't go like every month even, but we went like a few times a year. Nathan Drake, a young baby is an oxymoron. Yes. The Joker is a socialist hero. He killed the wealthy. I mean, that's an interesting take. He's certainly countercultural. And I don't know if he's a hero, though, because he killed lots of other people. See, I kind of think Batman is a story where there's not really a hero in Batman. Like, yeah, it's clear that, like, the joke, like Batman's not a good guy. Like, Batman's not really a good guy. Right? But, like, I don't think the Joker is a good guy, even if the Joker has elements of his villainy that are sympathetic. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. You know, I bet the word killed is probably fine. Because there's lots, because, like, I'm very careful with how I operate on YouTube because I don't want to get my videos demonetized and all of that. So I always have to be very conscious about what I title things. So I try not to use that word, kill. But then it makes sense because, like, how many video games that are live streamed use that word all the time? Like shooting games where you've racked up 10 kills this round. So the word is probably a pretty useful, a pretty common one on YouTube that maybe they can't really edit out. So guys, I'm going to wrap this stream. We normally wrap between 10 and 10:30, but before I go, I want to do a few things. First of all, I want to say thank you. All of you were very generous tonight with your time, supporting the channel. I love spending my Wednesday nights with you guys. If you are new to the channel, please click the subscribe button. I do daily political commentary from the left, you know, usually covering mainstream politics, but every once in a while we'll do a day on stonks. We'll do something like that. You know, click the subscribe button. If you haven't yet, if you have subscribed, but you haven't, click that little bell. If you click the bell, you'll get notifications when I post videos. At least most of the time you will. It doesn't always work, but most of the time you'll get a notification if you click the bell. If you want to support the channel, the biggest thing you can do is watch the videos. Again, the way the YouTube algorithm works in general is that when you watch a video, you click on it, you watch it the whole way through, you like it, all those sorts of things, leave a comment. Those things are all positive signs to the algorithm that encourages them to put the video out to more people. So if you do that, it helps the creator, not just me, but any creator that you really want to support. Watching the content is like the #1 thing you can do. And if you want to support the channel on an ongoing basis, you can do so by joining and becoming a member of the channel, or you can become a patron at Patreon. There should be links in the description. If you want to support the channel on a one-time basis, I believe I have a PayPal link as well. But of course, I realize that not everyone has the means to do so at the best of times, and especially right now when people are still waiting on their all too inadequate stimulus checks. So from the bottom of my heart, you know, I really do value above all, like, the time you guys give to me, because I make so many videos a day that, you know, I ask a lot of your time if you're going to be watching my content regularly. So thanks so much, guys. Oh, wait, before I go, I do want to drop the Discord link again. If you want to hang out with some of the people from the chat, myself, just people that are around, it's a good place to go. It's also when I have a video that I don't think is going to get notifications, or for whatever reason, I'll post it there or post a reminder there. So it's a good place to keep updates on the channel. Guys, have a good one. I'll see you next Wednesday with another live stream, and I'll see you tomorrow with more new content. Have a good one. Thanks again.